something that would be addressed in this loss session?
Yes, sir. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, Pastor Whitmore, because my mission statement for my practice is dedicated to helping people to adjust to unexpected changes, unexpected life changes, because a lot of time unexpected life changes are directly related to loss. And there's an adjustment that's required. And sometimes in that adjustment, support and assistance is needed. So the loss of a normal, of life as you know it, because even for people who are grieving a particular person through death, sometimes that grief is really associated with adjusting to life differently without that person. So even if it's not a person, but it's a routine, it's something that was once normal, that is no longer that. That loss can be just as impactful. Learning now that you have to live with having to have dialysis for the rest of your life. You've lost that way of living. Loss of a job that you were I'm going to say a career, because it's not necessarily a job that's going to cause a person that level of grief, but it could be a career that now it's gone, and it may even be through retirement, not necessarily be because they come and said that the company is shutting down, but even retirement for some people means that they need support, that because they're grieving life as they know it. Now they have to figure out a new purpose. Who am I now? What goes into that sometimes is figuring out a new identity, because I'm not the executive director anymore. I'm not the manager or whatever that role was. Now, who am I? What is my purpose? What do I do now? So to answer your question, absolutely. Yes, it would be appropriate for whatever area that a person is experiencing loss. There can be some benefit to you for coming out and being a part of this experience.
Now, I have a couple more questions, Pastor. One, in dealing with grief and loss, is there a time period? I noticed you said that people may still be grieving the loss of the late Bishop Dennis Leonard. Is there a time period that someone should look at? And the other thing is, how would I know, say if I buried this, how would I know that I'm still grieving? Because I went through a period where, I didn't grieve my mother's passing for a long time. And then I realized I hadn't grieved, and just the realization of me realizing I hadn't grieved brought on some emotions. So how can a person identify that? And, is there a time period?
And boy, that's a tricky question when you ask, is there a time period? There is no set time that it takes to grieve. However, if you're still grieving at the same intensity 5 years later, 10 years later, then you've probably not dealt with that situation to the extent that you need to, and you're probably in need of some professional assistance, depending on how it's impacting and affecting your day-to-day functioning. And it's different for everyone. Everyone does not grieve the same. The amount of time that it takes you to work through and to process through in a healthy manner will vary. It can be siblings in the same household who've lost a parent who grieve very differently, and the time that it takes for them to grieve will be different. However, what you need to start looking at to ask whether or not you're dealing with that loss in a healthy way versus a dysfunctional or unhealthy way is how you are now functioning compared to how you were functioning prior to that loss, as it relates to habits, attitude, mood, emotional state. Can you self-regulate? have you suppressed that? And sometimes it really requires some honest reflection and analyzing how is your physical body even? Because sometimes those symptoms don't necessarily play out in how you are functioning outwardly, but now what's happening to your body intrinsically? Are you now starting to experience some health challenges? Because sometimes our body will be the telltale sign or the barometer of us not having come to a place of really addressing trauma, whether it's loss or otherwise, to the extent that we need to. So we can pretend like we're well all day long sometimes because that's the expectation of us. And I want to just take a moment, if you're okay with this, Pastor Whitmore, and just speak to the leaders, because leaders are the true culprits of this, because of the expectation on the leader to go forward and to be the example. And the expectation is that the leader is doing okay. You have to be doing okay because you're the head. You're especially a spiritual leader, a parent, the manager. Everybody's looking at you like they look at the pilot, like a passenger looks at the pilot, but he's kind of looking down the aisle. How's the pilot doing? How's the flight attendant doing? So they know if they should panic. So they take on that responsibility, and I have to function. I have to be okay because everybody puts that on me. Well, that doesn't mean that you break down and have a meltdown in front of everybody necessarily, but it does mean that you do need to be taking care of yourself outside of how you're displaying that for people. But at the same time, be transparent and let people know that, you know what, my heart is broken and I'm working through it. And this is what I'm doing to get the help that I need. I'm making sure that I'm eating healthy, getting rest. I have a therapist, even if it's just temporarily, it may be short term. You just need a little bit of help. I'm going to a grief group. I'm doing whatever it is that truly helps you to work through the pain of the loss.
Hello, my name is Pastor David Whitmore, and I want to invite you to join us every Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for Ask the Pastors. We have a host of pastors available to answer your questions, to take your prayer requests, and just be available for you in these different